Welcome to Freedom Cast, where your hosts, Jordan and Miranda, show you how to get just a little bit more out of life. Are you ready to leave normal behind?
Welcome to episode 35, Freedom Casters. Wow, 35. How awesome is that? This week, we are going to be interviewing Kevin and Melissa Howard. They are actually the leaders of our local life group from the church that Miranda and I go to, Life Fellowship. We definitely enjoyed having them on. We're going to talk about intentional living with them. They're going to share their story of just having to be more intentional after having their recent newborn baby, Braden. We're going to talk about some other really cool things as well. We're excited to have you on this episode. Definitely check this one out. I know you're going to love it. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here, Freedom Cast listeners. Thank you to Kevin and Melissa Howard for joining us today. Thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your Friday evening now just to come on and talk with Miranda and I a little bit. So if you just want to get started, just tell us a little bit about yourselves and then maybe how we met or whatever else you guys just want to get started, and then we'll dig into this.
All right, sounds good. First of all, we're just glad to be able to do it. My name is Kevin Howard, and my wife is Melissa Howard.
That was hey.
Thank
Great.
And that pretty much wraps up the things about me.
That's all you need to know, really.
Yeah, we're deep.
Obviously, we're trying to work on our humor, and we obviously have a long way to go.
Well, we do too, so it's all good.
How long have we been married now?
About 2.5 years.
Yeah, so we married later in life, but I think we learned a lot from it. We're both the youngest in our families of 3 siblings. Both come from close families. Mine's a little bit bigger than hers. Kind of have similar backgrounds. I think we'll get to some of that in questions, but eHarmony worked for us, and sometimes I see that maybe our backgrounds are a little too similar, but
they matched you too well.
They did.
They did.
We do have a lot in common, though, so it is a good thing. Sometimes it's hard to get free time because she's jealous when I want to go do something because she wants to do the same things. But that also makes it fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we actually met you guys through the church we go to. Jordan and I wanted to join a life group, so we emailed the life group coordinator, and he sent us your information.
Who did you email? Was it Brad?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Brad.
I wasn't sure if he was around at that point or.
He was, yeah. And then we met. It was kind of like a blind couples date. So
It kind of was. I forgot about that.
we met at Sabi.
We met in a restaurant.
It was a safe time of day. Yeah. There was plenty of people around. So, but I feel like we just hit it off with you guys right away, and we've been part of the life group now for a year now?
Been about a
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is.
Yeah, we started last summer.
Yeah. That's,
Yeah, and you guys are really brave. We told you about a small group that didn't really exist yet, and y'all have been a huge part of it ever since that day. So we appreciate the friendship and the support that you guys have given us.
Yeah, like Miranda said, we felt connected to you guys pretty much right away. We got that good vibe. We're like, well, we're gonna be in whatever life group they're in, even if it's not even technically a life group yet. We're just,
just the 4 of us.
Yep.
It's a very small group.
That's kind of how it started, but it took off good, and you guys really have been a huge support and big part in that. So thank you guys.
Even though we missed last week, but that's okay.
I know.
We'll be back.
We didn't want to bring that up, but since you did,
Hey, that's all right.
we need to have a talk about that.
I always end up throwing myself under the bus. So
Yeah, we call ourselves out. That's true. Did you say you brought cookies?
No, I said you can come back in.
Miranda heard that. She's like, oh man, I missed out.
That's too funny. So another big thing with you two is that you just recently had a baby. And I know this is a big question, but how has having a baby and becoming parents kind of changed your perspective on life, on family, on sleep, everything?
That's it. We were just talking about how that's kind of a deep question.
It is a deep question, but we asked because Miranda and I don't know.
We didn't either going into it. I don't think
imagine.
one of those
Yeah.
things where you can think about and probably talk about before you have a kid, but you really don't know until you have a kid.
Yeah, that is very true. That's probably one of the biggest things is you really can't prepare for it. I read a ton, probably way too much, and it prepared me for very little. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I said I was going to tell a joke, so maybe it's a joke on me, but I admitted to my wife that I had read virtually nothing when I confessed after the fact that I was worried that I thought Braden, is our son's name, was cross-eyed. Little did I realize that a lot of babies, I guess, are born cross-eyed or they just can't focus yet. So I did secretly Google the fact that my son was cross-eyed, and my wife hadn't said anything about it. I'm like, this is a pretty major deal. I'm surprised she's not mentioning this. So yeah, just so future dads, you don't have to tell on yourself that you didn't read a book like your wife did. That could happen to you.
I feel like
Brought it up
that
with
would.
the doctor.
Okay, go ahead, Melissa.
Hey, sorry,
you're
I was
good.
just going to say he brought it up with the doctor, and I was like, really? You didn't know that? And the doctor was like, no, that's fine. Like, all babies are cross-eyed. So that was a good start. But no, on a serious note, let's see here. What is it? How did it change our perspective? I probably think about the future a lot more than I used to. I think I used to not really think about too much far ahead. But now I think about it constantly, probably too much. And I probably worry a little too much. Because I follow things more closely, even just, politics and what's going on around the world, because I keep thinking of what it's going to be like for Braden when he's, our age or even younger. That's probably the hardest thing that I've realized is just how much you care about this person and what their life is going to be like. It's really life-changing and it's hard. I wasn't prepared for that part of it. Just how much it really is like your heart is now like walking or not even walking, but laying outside of your body in this child. So it's that's probably the biggest thing for me. I don't know if that made sense. Did that make sense?
It did. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little different for the guy. As Braden gets older and he's a little bit more interactive, I'll just say it's more fun. But it's definitely an adjustment. I mean, just, going from dating to being married and it just being the two of you and with a crazy dog. The dog takes a lot of our attention. We have a crazy bird dog, a Vizsla named Kona. Now it's no longer just the two of you. So, that takes getting used to and just trying to figure out how to reprioritize. And I've never been much of a planner. And I think it's helping me realize the importance of planning and, focusing on what's important and knowing that you can't fit everything that you want to in a day and just making sure you get the important things done, which is definitely easier to say than to get done.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you two did something really cool. You, how old is Braden now? Is he
almost
6 months?
That's crazy.
I thought it's crazy.
That's
I feel
awesome,
like he
though.
was literally just born.
Happy year. Yeah, it's wild.
But you two decided not to figure out whether it was a boy or a girl until, the day of. Do you guys think that was worth it? Do you think that was a good decision to make? And I know it was probably very difficult during the pregnancy to not cheat and find out, whether it was a boy or a girl.
Yeah, I think it was harder on all our family than on us. Like everyone's like, "What? How can you not be finding out?" And they wanted to buy us the clothes, and they just couldn't stand it. But to us, like I absolutely loved it. I'll do it again if we have another one. It was just so fun and special for Kevin to be able to tell me what the baby was, and it was kind of funny.
That's cool.
Kevin can tell a little bit of a funny story. I don't know if we're
No, we love stories. That's great.
well, we won't go to that, but just
Oh,
tell
yeah.
them that.
Okay, not too many stories.
Yeah. You can get exactly a little too personal.
You might better tell me what to say, or I'm
Yeah.
I'm a little too open sometimes.
Don't say much.
Don't
Just
say much.
say about the gender, like when they were like,
When we were doing the ultrasound.
no.
Oh,
When the
okay, because we
baby
had
was
two
born.
really good
No,
stories.
but don't talk about
but
that. That one's inappropriate.
one is inappropriate.
Oh.
The doctors all got a good laugh out of me, not my wife, when we were doing the ultrasound. But I will leave that alone. We knew our boy or girl was going to have a really good sense of humor when we saw the ultrasound pictures. But
That's
I'll leave that alone.
funny. Anyway, you might want to.
So the other funny part was
when the baby was born.
essentially when the baby was born, we ended up Melissa's was her birth plan was not have a C-section. We ended up having a C-section, but essentially, when we're sitting there and I'm in the operating room with her and we're essentially on our side of the curtain, again, we didn't know what we were having, and it's just like seconds from finding out, and you're just kind of listening to what's going on the other side of the curtain, and we hear the doctor essentially say, she's coming, or she this, she that. And I remember Melissa looking at me and being like, we're having a girl.
Yeah.
And one of the two of us was definitely probably hoping for a girl. But then, so they lift the baby up to show us, and their hands like in the way. And I'm like training to see, what is it? What is it? And I'm thinking it's a girl. So even when we thought we were being surprised and then given away by the doctor and thinking we were having a girl, we had a boy. I guess sometimes doctors just stick with a gender and always say she, just so they don't give things away, because we've definitely heard stories where the doctors ruin it for people that weren't planning on finding out.
Interesting. So they choose.
So yeah, that was
So they
definitely
choose
fun.
she to say she instead of he.
I don't know that they all
Maybe
do.
some
Maybe
of
they all choose. We had a female doctor, so maybe that's why she chose she. But
Interesting.
But it was funny because Kevin was like, I can't see
Yeah,
what
like-
it is.
Oh no!
I'm still
I was like,
surprised.
"Oh, the baby." Yeah. So it's funny. But anyway, yes, highly recommend. Unless you're a huge planner, then obviously don't wait. But otherwise, we loved it.
yeah, Melissa just said the other day, she's like, I think I want to, not find out for the next one too. So that was good either way, but I really enjoyed it. I
Are
definitely
you ready for
recommend it.
another one now? I had to ask.
I don't want to be pregnant again, but I'm like, okay, let's just have another one and like get through this face to face. Let's
Start
just knock
popping
it
them
out.
out.
I like it.
Just get it done. We're also old.
You guys
so
are not old.
for birth and babies, we're pretty old.
Well, I can't argue with that. I don't know either way, so I won't argue with that. But you guys are very much young at heart. How about that?
There you go.
There you go. We try to be.
I guess is that a compliment to say someone's young at heart? I don't know. Okay, good. Well, then you guys are young at heart. Okay,
Just as long as you don't say you're young at heart. So.
sir, you are young at heart.
Mr. Kevin, you're very
Yeah,
young at
Mr.
heart.
Kevin.
Yeah, that kind of ruins it.
I feel like Mr. Howard would be
Oh,
worse.
Mr. Howard. Yeah, there you go.
Mr. Kevin is still
Yeah.
like, okay. Anyway, we're gonna jump into the next question. I kind of want to get into this. We already talked a little bit just about your guys' family life, but something Miranda and I just are very much concerned with, and we care a lot about is marriage and people connecting. We've talked about that on other podcast episodes, but we're just wondering how did you take this crazy dog and then having a baby and then still make time for each other. And maybe it just comes out of the fact that you guys have, I know you have mutual hobbies, and you were alluding to that a little bit earlier, Kevin, but maybe you guys just want to talk about that. Just how you find time, for each other in the midst of, all the craziness that life has. Because I think even Miranda and I, we don't have kids, we don't have a dog, yet we still talk
We don't
sometimes.
even
Like
have a plant.
we don't have a plant yet. We don't have a plant yet. But we still talk about the fact that life can kind of get away from you. Life can get busy. So I think any advice that we can glean from that, any advice our listeners can glean, it would just be helpful. I think especially in our culture, we can just be so busy. But
Well, it's really hard. We do have similar hobbies, but most of them you can't do with a baby. So when we're used to being able to just go
Yeah.
paddleboard or go on a mountain bike ride or go for a run, we can't do that. And so, it's hard. And also, I guess a lot of it is you really have to plan now. You have to be intentional because otherwise it won't happen. And I think I've been amazed at how it just slips by. And neither of us are good planners. And so I would definitely say it's been hard for us. So, I mean, you got to plan. You have to just know that, okay, the baby's asleep at 9:00. We're going to put down our phones. We're not going to read. We're just going to spend time together, whether it's even having a late dinner, whatever it is. But you really have to plan and be intentional about setting that time aside. And you also can't just assume someone's going to watch your baby. So you have to work around your baby, That's probably my biggest thing is you have to really make an effort. And I think we've never really had to make much of an effort at our relationship. Like even from dating to marriage, it's moved quickly. It's moved great, easy, wonderful flow. We haven't had to plan. We've just been spontaneous and, probably like you guys, you don't even have a plan, right? So you don't even have to water a plant, but so things just happen.
We have an avocado pit that we're trying to nurture into a plant at the moment.
Wow. That's impressive.
We have tried this before and it has failed. So we just.
I want to follow up on the avocado pit.
We'll let you know. I mean, it's supposed to. It does. It works on YouTube. It hasn't worked in real life yet. So
YouTube and Google say it's possible. So it has to be possible.
There you go.
But
I didn't know that was a thing.
But I'll just answer what you were saying, Melissa, and just kind of talk about that. If you guys ever need a date night, I'll just volunteer me and Miranda. Don't look at me like that.
I didn't give him a face.
Hey, I'll make it real easy for you. Like I'll make it so he doesn't have to eat or anything. All you have to do is stare at him.
Well, sometime soon then we will come over and you guys can have a date night. I feel like the dog will be more of a handful than the baby.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, the dog is harder.
I could take it out, but I would get worn out.
I mean, if you want some exercise, she's your dog.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You have thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, the only thing I'd probably add is just the communication part. And I wouldn't say that, when you ask the question, I think we're learning every day.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
I mean, you really kind of relearn each other in some ways just because the dynamic changes so much. But, just being willing to communicate, I think, saying things that, hey, can we do this differently? Or being willing to have those conversations because, the other person doesn't know. I mean, you're involving this together and you might have thoughts, but if you're not getting them out, the other person's not going to benefit from it. So it's just willing to be open and knowing that you have to, have the intentional communication on, just how things are evolving.
Cool.
Yeah, I think you have to be open to hear, it's not criticism, but it's, we had an experience recently where, I guess, I don't know, I had to hear something hard and it didn't work. It didn't start out well, but it ended well because eventually you realize, all right, I have to be able to take a little bit of not criticism as much as correction and being able to see, okay, here's where things are going wrong or where we're not doing well and how we can improve. So being able to have a teachable spirit, I guess my mom used to always say teachable spirit. So, but being able to, and being able to learn and adjust and do things for your spouse that you might not necessarily think they need. Another thing, as a mom, you can't help it. Your brain is 24/7 on your baby. And for me, I can't turn it off. And it's hard for other people to understand that until they're a mom. And Kevin's not ever going to be a mom. So my brain space is like baby, 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 baby right now. And I can't help it. So, that's hard.
I think
it's different when it's Kevin, and all of a sudden it's baby, baby, baby.
Kevin's been replaced.
Yeah. And I think it hits home for me. I mean, I have a mom who, very loving, very serving mom, but to the point where, sometimes the kids came before maybe their marriage. Yeah. And, she's taught me a lot. And it's just like, the marriage has to come first. And, Braden's still super young. It's not like we can talk to him about these things. But, Melissa and I talk about that. Like, our marriage has to come first. And, so we're working through those things, but, just communication and being open and honest about it.
Yeah. And I really liked Melissa's point too about being able to take, just because I know for me it is, if I hear anything that even, sounds a little bit like criticism, I can get immediately defensive about it. So it is really important to kind of...
No, not you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not you, Miranda.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay for that one later.
Yeah, I will. It's all right.
But yeah, just having that open mind and thinking, okay, what truth is in, what he's saying. I can't just immediately put up a wall and say, that's ridiculous, I'm perfect, because nobody's perfect. So I think that's definitely a really good point with communicating, not getting defensive, even though it can be really challenging to have a teachable spirit.
Yeah, I'm the same way, Miranda. It's hard. But y'all can do it when it's time.
When it's time. Not yet.
We'll see when it's time. We'll see.
If it's ever time, no pressure.
So you guys touched on a little bit about your hobbies, but could you just kind of expand a little bit more on what got you guys into like paddleboarding and mountain biking? It's all really cool stuff that I think Jordan and I would love to do, but I think it's just, for us, it's just getting over that hurdle of, I don't know, like buying a paddleboard, or, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm kind of scared to paddleboard.
Come on over. We've got 2.
I'll push him in the
Y'all
lake.
Yeah. Y'all can babysit and we'll go paddleboard, and then we'll come back and then y'all
There
can
you
go
go.
paddleboard.
That's a good plan.
Okay.
I think a lot of our activities were things we really did before we got together. So, I mean, it was part of who we were, and I think part of what attracted each of us to one another. But, I mountain biked. I guess we really started paddleboarding together when we were dating. I've always had a thing for toys. Melissa was actually on a mission trip to Haiti, and her boyfriend at the time, which was me, basically went and bought a fairly expensive paddleboard while she was in Haiti, serving people. And she comes home to, essentially this piece of fiberglass that costs more than a lot of homes in Haiti. So I'm sure that was hard for her, but the way we are, I mean, we're very active, and we did buy nice paddleboards, and I think we're glad we did. We've taken them to the Florida Keys. We've kind of bounced around with them and have a lot of fun with it. But it is, that's kind of our date night is, going for a paddle. We can take our crazy dog. She can swim while we paddle, and it wears her out. So those are benefits. And a lot of that is, tell them about our date night since we've been married, essentially.
Yeah, we've had 4 date nights where we've had like a babysitter or a date day even. And 3 out of 4 involved a running race.
Oh, wow.
So we were like, well, I guess we don't go out to dinner. We do some kind of
That's
run
awesome.
or something. So, but that's just what's been important to us before. When we were, single, we spent a lot of our time playing, running, mountain biking, paddling, camping, hiking. And that's kind of how we grew up too. And so, I don't know. It's just kind of who we are, and it just matched up really well. So
I think that's really cool. And the reason we asked that is because, and I think especially for me, and a lot of people out there for sure can get in this mode of just wanting to do like work most of the time, kind of I'll work, no play. And I'll play, but as far as like getting into hobbies and stuff, like I think especially lately it's harder for me. Now I'm trying to get into playing tennis and playing like on a league maybe, and playing more competitively. But even that I have to be like super intentional about, and I have to put it on my list of to-dos for the week of stuff that I need to do. And I think Miranda's really helped me with that because she's had a lot of different hobbies and has kind of pushed us to, okay, Jordan, we don't need to just do like, you don't need to work on your website all weekend. Like, let's go hang out with people. So I think it's important, like, especially for me, like just to consider, the fact that having hobbies is just, it's really good for you because it gets you out there, it gets you doing new things.
Yeah.
And it's just important. And that's why we asked that question, because it's just because it's something I've struggled with. but sometimes I know other people like can relate to too. And just hearing new hobbies is fun. Like I wouldn't have considered like going and ever doing paddleboarding, but it's just we know someone that does that, so it's just a cool kind of another thing.
Yeah, it's really fun. And Jordan, I think it's hard too when you kind of work from home and you set your own schedules, because you can't ever really. I mean, you can check out of work, but it's a little harder than going to an office and coming home and being like, okay, I'm done. Because you probably have that in the back of your mind a lot, like what you need to be doing for work.
Yeah, there's that guilt thing that kind of sneaks in. Like that's why it's hard for me to sit down and actually read a book, because if I'm sitting down and reading a book, I could be with my laptop and working.
Yeah.
So that's always been my kind of struggle. And you really have to set boundaries, and especially working from home, you have to like, okay, when Miranda gets home, I'm done. And that's when I'm doing more of like fun stuff or whatever. That's when I'm maybe reading or stuff like that. But it is hard. You have to be, like you said before, I think being intentional with things is so important. It's difficult. It's not easy. But with a lot of things, you have to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know you both like cookies, and I think half the reason I like to exercise is because I also like to eat fun things too.
Yeah.
And I don't want to diet, so I will just exercise more. But I know that like at the busiest times of my life, like when I did grad school, if it wouldn't have been for running, I honestly wouldn't have made it through grad school, because for me, like I'll get in a funk if I haven't, done something physical. And, sometimes you just forget, you get lazy, you get in a rut where you just haven't done anything in a while.
You're like, what's wrong with me? And you go for a run and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I feel human again.
Yeah.
And I don't think you had to be like a great runner. And that's one thing Melissa's great about, is like encouraging people to do more physical type things. But, you don't have to be great at any of them. I mean, Melissa and I have a ton of hobbies because, she's a great road biker, but, I don't think I'm great at any of the one things I do, but I just enjoy doing a bunch of different things. So I like variety.
That made me think of Miranda calling herself the dabbler.
Yeah. She's like, I like to dabble in things.
Yeah.
We can relate. Like we're okay at a bunch of stuff, but we're not really great at anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm okay.
And luckily, we're both pretty good with not spending a ton of money, but I like to spend money on toys.
Unless it's a paddleboard.
Yeah, paddleboards, mountain bikes, road bikes.
Yeah, they're expensive toys.
All right, so guys, I want to transition a little bit. I'm going to get a little deep with this question. Originally, we had the question as how has faith played a role in your life? And we've asked that for other people before. But I want to change it a little bit and kind of ask you guys what it's doing for you right now. Maybe, and you can talk about just one thing if you want, if one thing, jumps out at each of you. It doesn't have to be, eye-opening or anything. We like to talk about it. We're just curious what you guys think about that. So maybe just one way it's playing a role in your life right now.
Do you want me to go?
I'll go ahead and go.
You can take a second. I did switch the question.
No,
on
you're
you.
good.
So.
Like, one just really jumps in my mind, and y'all probably won't be surprised to hear me talk about this, but I think what I'm discovering more, I'm 41. I always joke, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. Of course, I'm trying to decide if I even want to grow up, but
yeah.
I think with faith, what I'm learning is, pretty much that God has created us all uniquely. He's given us distinct personalities, distinct gifts. And, I think, trying to embrace that and learn who God has designed me to be. And, I can try to be somebody else, with Facebook and everything on social media and TV. It's easy to want to be the Kardashians if you want to be that kind of person. Everybody's comparing themselves to somebody. But I think what I'm learning is just, the best thing I'm going to be stressed until I become the Kevin that, God essentially designed me to be. I'm still trying to learn what that is, but, I think that, it takes faith to just kind of embrace that and kind of push to the side, if you will, maybe what society's telling me to be. Or even like my parents, Dad was always like, I want you to be financially secure. And, just like you guys, you might make a decision to say, hey, I want to pursue this. It might not be initially as lucrative as maybe my current situation, but, I have a lot of respect for you guys for just taking, a huge step of faith. And I think I'm processing a lot of that right now. And faith that plays a huge part of that for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For me, I think it's, of course, it's going to go back to Braden probably, but
The mind's all baby.
I know, right? It's so true though. Can't stop it. But I think for me, it's probably really helping me work through probably fear, really, is what I'm wrestling with, and really needing to lean on my faith, because if we're fearing, we're not trusting. And that's probably what my biggest battle is right now. Just because you fear everything from a cold to the, I worry. I was talking to Kevin about the end times, and I was like paranoid because I didn't want Braden to have to go through anything hard. And it sounds silly, but to me, it was like so very real. And Kevin's probably thinking, "What is wrong with where is my old wife?" But
yeah.
I
mean, I'm just being honest about it. But
and she's 6 years younger, so it's not like she's my old wife.
I am kind of old, but anyway. So I mean, really, that's right now. I like how you changed it to right now, because that makes it a little easier for me to answer. Because faith has played a lot of different roles at different times. But right now, I'm really just working through that and trusting that, Braden's here for a reason, and just trusting that he'll come to know, God, and that he'll be okay. And just know that I can't control it. I can't control him. I can't control his life. That's up to the Lord, really. So we can just do our part that we can, but there's only so much we can do. So, I'm battling those kind of worries and fear, and realizing that I just need to trust.
Yeah, those are so cool. I especially like that trust issue, and just learning that. I think, and that's why I was kind of thinking just to switch it to kind of right now, because I know it. The role faith can play is always kind of molding, and it's always different based on where we're at in our lives right now. But definitely, I wanted to respond more to what you were saying, Kevin. I was kind of thinking, but didn't want to just jump in right away. But I think it's so cool that you're still seeking, and I think that's just a lesson for anyone. It doesn't matter how old you are, or it doesn't matter where you find yourself in life. You can always jump out and start seeking what God's purpose is for you. I like that. Like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I might, if you end up saying that into your 60s, I think that's better than, feeling like you're stuck in something that you don't necessarily want to do. I think, and we may spend all our lives seeking, and I think that's just part of the reality. We may never, and hopefully we find, bits and pieces of what our purpose is. But I think, sometimes I think, am I ever going to find it? And I think, we'll find, like I said, we'll find parts of it, but we may never find the whole. But I think as long as we're seeking, as long as we're trying to learn toward that, that's really all we can do. That makes sense, Miranda? I want to make sure you're good with that.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good with that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a process. It's life, even if you think you've made it, you never want to, we kind of talked about this in our last podcast. You never want to just be, stagnant. You have to keep moving forward, or you're moving back. So it's kind of, it's life. It's a process. You never really hit a point where you're like, well, I'm good. I can coast from here.
That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. That's why I asked. I was like, I don't know if I'm saying what I'm trying to say.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think of my mom. I mean, she's 68 years old, retired. She has cancer. And, we were talking the other day. It's just like, when you retire and you don't have your thing anymore. And, I was just talking to her about, it feels weird when you start basically encouraging or feel like you're parenting your parents, essentially. But, you're where you can't go out of the home because of your illness. And it's just like, but you understand that. And now you've got this new chapter of life that you have to figure out. Yeah. So, the way you ask the question makes perfect sense, because your faith is going to be different and with the challenges or the chapter that you're in your life at the moment. So, yeah, I really like the way you're asking it, because, that's what I was trying to tell Mom was, there's people that are going through your same situation, but you understand it more than someone who hasn't. So, reach out to those people that are, kind of homebound, and you can be a source of positivity for them. So
yeah, that's great.
It's always changing.
Yep. That's awesome.
Very cool. So can you guys just tell us maybe a few long-term goals you have, or maybe
To grow up. No,
to grow up, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
figure out what you want to be when you grow up.
Weren't you paying attention when we told you we're not goal setters?
I know this is a challenge, but I believe in you guys. But
Even just maybe one combined, if you guys want to do that, that's fine.
Melissa, I'm going to let you go
There
first.
you go.
Okay. Well,
Nice.
okay, so I have two, and
Ooh,
they're
nice,
not deep.
nice,
They're
very
not
nice.
deep at all.
Melissa did her homework.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal one of her too, maybe.
One is actually combined with it's Kevin and I, and it's really, I mean, it's not deep by any means. These are not deep goals.
Oh, that's fine.
But something that cool that Kevin brought up that I really love the idea of is taking this. Okay, so I work from home, and Kevin has flexibility with his job to, as long as he has internet and a phone, he's pretty good to go for the most part. So he came up with this idea of, instead of doing like a typical 1 week vacation, of trying to do like 2 or 3 weeks where it's kind of a working vacation, work some, play some, and go somewhere for like 2 or 3 weeks, do some work, but also vacation, and take our kids and just, camp out, say 3 weeks, like in Costa Rica, and maybe try and learn to surf while we're there. So I like the idea of being there for 3 weeks and also trying to learn something that's specific to that area. So say if we go on the coast of Italy for 3 weeks, that would be one of my first choices. We learn to make pasta or just something fun like that. So try and do that once a year. I just love the idea of staying somewhere for a long time.
That's awesome. That's not like me and Miranda are looking at each other like, that's awesome. That's not.
And she just said that. I like how she called that a small goal.
Yeah, that's. Oh man.
Maybe said it wasn't a deep goal.
No, I just mean it's not like I want to develop my mind, and it's just kind of it's a little bit selfish, but it's also awesome.
I think that is so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
So
Write that down.
Yeah, I read I think it was an Outside Magazine article on Wi-Fi gypsies. Well, I don't know what they call them. Basically, these people that just go, to all these other countries. I'm reading this. I'm like, why can't I do that? I mean, Melissa works from home. I basically answer email all day long, and I'm like, I can do it from anywhere. And with vacation the way it is now, if you only have 2 weeks of vacation, if I can work 2 days a week and then take off 3 days a week, why not stay somewhere a little bit longer?
Yeah.
Very cool.
and now with VRBOs and stuff, it's not having to stay in a hotel room. It's much more affordable, and depending on where you go, it can be super affordable.
And we thought we could, if we stay 3 weeks, we'll fly different people in, or hopefully at their own expense, so we don't have to pay for it. But they get to spend a week with us and babysit Braden on occasion. So
and get to hang out with you guys more. That sounds like sign us up.
We'll
it might just be
Italy
grandparents.
week.
But
I bet we can get in that.
Yeah, we'll work on it.
We hadn't really talked about the babysitting thing, but we did talk about just making it cheaper. If we had 3 rooms, why couldn't someone come stay with us for a week? And we just charge them a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's more affordable for everybody.
Very cool.
So that's one goal. And then my other goal that I've had forever is I want to do an Ironman distance triathlon.
Wow. Awesome.
So I don't know when, but one day.
she would probably already have done it if she wouldn't have got married.
I should have done it before I got married, to be honest. But it's one of those things. Don't wait. But yeah. So that's another kind of selfish, non-deep goal of mine.
Those are pretty good goals. I like them. I like them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, luckily, since I let Melissa go first, I think I have 3 essentially.
Ooh, very nice.
I thought Melissa was going to say this when she said her first one. I think one of our goals was, and I don't know that we've done a great job, is basically have somebody over once a month for dinner, whether it's just a neighbor or friends or whoever. People are trying to get to know better. But time passes by so quickly. We talk about not being goal setters and planners. But that's kind of an easy one, but
Except for we failed.
yeah. It sounds simple.
That's amazing.
But yeah, sorry.
It's all right. The other one might sound a little cliche, but I actually wrote it down the other day. I heard a speaker that, just was instrumental. But literally one of mine was, make more goals. So that sounds like a cop-out answer, but
No, that's great.
that's one of mine. I'm trying to remember my third one. For sake of time, I think you're going to get some time back because I forgot it already. Maybe it's work on my memory.
Yeah.
My wife would probably appreciate that. The other one was I just read more. I mean, I've already started, and I'm really embracing it. That came from that talk that I heard recently. But
And also Jordan and Miranda, who are reading like 1,000 books in 1 year.
yeah, my goal is not 1,000. It's more.
More, yeah. 1001.
Nice vague goal.
We're
Just
rising.
right.
It's
Read
all
more
right.
books than Jordan and Miranda.
We'll never get there.
I like those. Those are great goals.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Are you going to follow up and see if we actually do them?
Yeah, if you want us to. I
All
do.
right. We probably do need to be held accountable for them for sure,
Just
especially the
remember,
vacation.
These are long-term.
I think the 3-week thing is really cool because Miranda and I have actually talked about that too. We've talked about kind of one of our long-term things is for both of us to kind of be able to be more flexible. We call it location independent. I think you can call it whatever you want. I
Isn't
think
there like a term like nomads?
expat.
There you go.
Expat is
That
something
might be my
that,
wife on nomad.
yeah, nomad. I guess it's sort of that.
Oh, it was like a techie nomad or like a
Well,
There's-
expat is like
I don't know what
I don't know
that
how to
word
say
is.
that. It's
Why-
expat. I don't know what it
why
means.
do you
Just
keep
like work.
saying this word.
It works. It's a word.
Expat?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can look it up.
Explain
You've
it.
questioned me on words before, and they've been words. I don't know
It
why
is.
you
I
questioned me.
can agree
Yeah,
with
thank
you.
you, Kevin.
It's basically somebody that lives in another country.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily means like they live in another
I
country
thought
and
it was
work from
like-
their laptop.
It sounded like it was an acronym for something. Like
I-
entrepreneur, extra.
I'm not an expert on
Ooh,
the
I don't know.
expats.
Really?
Okay.
But
I
yeah.
gotcha. I believe you now.
But yeah, those are awesome goals. Thank you guys for sharing. We're nearing the end of like our normal kind of time frame, so we'll get in our last 2 questions. This last one is kind of more of a lighthearted one, so we'll jump to that for a little bit. But if you guys, each of you or together, want to say your one book or movie that you would recommend to our listeners, it doesn't have to be your favorite one, but it could be. You guys can choose.
Melissa's got a deep one she wants to share with everybody.
Sure.
I've been reading a lot of kids' books, and so there's one called Mama, and it's written by Jimmy Fallon, and it's basically the word "mama" on every page, so that your kid
I'm sure it's awesome.
so that your kid will say your name first. So they just hear "mama" over and over. But
It's written
honestly,
by Jimmy Fallon because that's awesome. He's the
Yeah.
man.
It is.
it's written by
Brian's
Jimmy
favorite,
Fallon.
like,
It's like son,
Favorite like
mama,
celebrity.
turtle, mama, pasta, mama.
The funny thing was I saw this book in an airport. I'm like, this book is ridiculous. And yeah, my mom got it from Melissa.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I couldn't come up with one, so that's the best I have. Kevin has a good one. A real
That's
one.
great.
She was admitting that all she's thinking about is our son right now.
Yep, just
Um,
going on with the theme.
There you go. Mine's still sticking with the theme somewhat. This was the speaker that I heard recently that really, I think, challenged me in a lot of cool ways. The speaker's name was Mark Madison, but the book is called Freedom from Fear. And I was reading it. Melissa was reading it, and I told you about my mom, but we let her read it when she was here, and I think she thought we were giving it to her, but so I hadn't quite finished it, but it's a very cool book. And
Oh, she took it?
Yeah, she took it. And
It's
yeah, so
That's something my dad would probably do.
yeah. But essentially, the book's talking about it's a guy that's at a funeral of this guy who was just a great kind of mentor, just someone that spoke into a lot of people's lives. And it's all the people that come up and talk about what this guy did in their life. Very easy read. I mean, not a long book whatsoever, but just each chapter is so full of just a ton of wisdom and in a very cool way. So I'm excited to get the book back and finish it myself, but really enjoying it. I think Melissa was as well.
Yeah, it was excellent. You guys should read it, and it'd be an easy way to check off one of your books because it's really short.
Yeah.
But
Can we
really
read the
good.
Mama book and count
Yes.
that?
I want
Totally.
the
I'll let you
mama
borrow it.
Okay. Kevin, what was the name of that book again?
Freedom from Fear.
Cool.
And the title's a little misleading because it's not like all about fear by any means. So if you don't struggle with fear, don't be like, hey, that's not a book for me. It's a great book for anybody.
I was just writing it down real quick. I'm going to definitely put that in the show notes, and then I'll find it on Amazon and link out to it as well. So anyone that's listening to this episode can, if you're listening to it on my website, you can actually go on the show notes and just click on that and kind of see what Kevin's talking about there. So Miranda, you want to ask the last question?
Yes, the last question is, now each of you can give one, or if you want to do one together, is just what is one piece of advice that you would give our listeners? And this could be about anything. It could be about raising a child, or, you know, the best way to cook chicken, whatever advice you feel like throwing out there.
Miranda would appreciate the cooking advice. That's why.
Yes. Could you please give me some knowledge?
I'm terrible at cooking chicken, so sorry, Miranda.
That's all right. Buy rotisserie chicken.
There you go.
That is
we do a lot of that.
Yeah,
okay, we're done.
secret.
all right. We're wrapping it up.
Great advice.
Rotisserie.
Kevin has a really good answer. Mine was just kind of one thing I'm working on is do more things that make you want to put your cell phone down. So
Great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I'm all about, and it's a battle too, but the cell phone, just social media, all of it's just driving me crazy. So it was like yesterday I had 10 minutes. I didn't want to do any work but I knew Braden was going to wake up. And so normally I would sit on my phone and scroll. And I was like, I'm going to go read because I don't want to pick up my phone and waste 10 minutes. And so it's like, wow, I learned so much in that 10 minutes where otherwise I just would have mindlessly, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mine. Do more things that make you want to put your cell phone down.
I think that's great. I mean, I have to personally, because Miranda's good at that. She can just shut her phone down and she doesn't know where her phone is. And I'm always learning stuff like that from her. But I just plug my phone in the kitchen, and then I try to leave it in there as much as possible whenever it needs to be charged. That's kind of my thing, because you're right. Like it could be so addictive. All of a sudden, 15 minutes is gone and you're just scrolling on Facebook, and you couldn't even answer. Like if someone asked me, Jordan, what did you learn, or why did you do that? I'd be like, I don't know. I just didn't know what else. I mean, you just get lost. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, hopefully I don't lose all your listeners by saying this, but I got rid of Pinterest. I got rid of Facebook. I got rid of one more thing, and it's weird. I grab my phone, I look at it because it's supposed to eat some time, and I've got so few apps on there now. I just put it down.
yeah,
but I'm actually
that's great.
I'm actually thankful for that. That's right.
Well, Miranda still doesn't have Facebook, and that's great, and people know that. So yeah, you're not going to turn anyone off.
Yeah, I just use Jordan if I need it, or if
You do.
he just relays the information.
All of your sisters tag me in every single post. I get tagged in pretty much everything, anything on Facebook that's about you. I get tagged in it. So.
It's nice. It works out really well for me.
Yeah,
I just get the good information.
That is good.
And my mom posts every picture we text mom, she posts it immediately, so everybody knows what's going on in our life.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't have to Facebook. She does it for me. Talk about yours.
I guess the one I had, and I said it in a more eloquent way, probably when I was talking to Melissa, and I was like, I won't remember how to say that. But essentially, mine is, I think the thing that I'm working with even on my own is just, I think not listening to who society tells you to be, but, just, deep down what your passions are and who you've been created to be. I see a lot of people that did what their parents told them to do or what have you. There's just so many unhappy people. And again, I give you guys a lot of credit for, the courage you have to be your own people and, kind of do what you're passionate about. But that's mine. I mean, it is still a struggle for me. I won't say that, I'm giving this advice because, I've mastered it, but I know that, I'm not truly going to be happy until I'm being more of who I was kind of designed to be.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you both for sharing that awesome advice for our listeners. I think that's super helpful. And I just wanted to just jump in here real quick and just talk about you guys for a little bit more. Again, we just thank you for being on our show, but just so you guys know, Miranda and I both look up to both of you. We definitely appreciate your friendship and just the time in the life group and just the level of support that we got when we were going through that, the big move and the big change that we were going through. So just thank you guys for being you. I don't know how else to say that other than just that.
We love you guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Guys. We love y'all. That's awesome.
We feel the same way. I have to tell a story about you guys because you probably don't tell a lot of your own stories. But I remember y'all
I
were
usually
talking
try to
about,
avoid my stories.
That's why I'm going to tell one. They were talking about managing budget and trying to watch, what they spend and so forth. And then like shortly thereafter, or I think maybe they even did it before that, they sent out a text to everybody in small group and said, okay, who can we pick up a milkshake for?
You love that story.
I do love that story. And I'm so sad I didn't take you up on that, the offer, but I'm hoping it still stands.
It was really just so we could justify getting milkshakes. So, a little different.
Yeah, that was the reason.
Well, and we're learning a lot from you guys too. Me specifically, because how kind of just generous you guys are and not afraid to kind of take a leap, and that's been awesome to watch.
Yeah, we try to just have the perspective that it's God's money. At least that's what we tell ourselves. It's hard to do in practice, but that's kind of what we're. Every time we meet and have our budget meetings, we're like, hey, ultimately this is not ours. We're just stewards of this. But then when you put it into practice, it's difficult. But we could have a whole episode on that. And dealing with that, dealing with the thoughts with that. I've always been kind of scared with that stuff. But yeah, maybe we'll talk about that in another episode, maybe.
Well, thank you guys. Sorry if we went too long.
You guys are great. Anything else that you guys want to add or you wanted to talk about a little bit more? We're still in the time frame. So you guys are good. If you want to add anything,
I don't know if you were expecting this, but I don't know. I just, my personality is like, I like to do things well. People think I'm laid back, but I like to, when I do something, I want to do it well. And Melissa kind of joked about me like being nervous to come do this, but I think it's fun to hear you guys because the exact same way you are every day is how you are on this. So, I look at it as encouragement for people, just like step out and do things. Like, I think when I met you, I don't think that I would have ever foresaw the day that we would be doing this together. And so, I think it's awesome that you're doing it. And, I just encourage you and other people, don't be afraid to step out and do things that you think you want to do or you're passionate about because, somebody's telling you you're not going to be able to do it or lies you're listening to because, we all struggle with that. So I'll just give you guys a lot of credit for that.
Well, thanks, Kevin. We definitely appreciate that. Absolutely.
And don't edit that part out.
I'm not going to. Don't worry. It was good. All right, guys. Well,
y'all have great radio voices too. Just FYI.
Oh, thank you. Well, you guys sound great too. So hopefully
I could hear you guys on the radio.
Okay. Listen. Well, cool. That's awesome. Good to know.
Your questions are really good too. So good job.
And Melissa edits videos for a living, so when she says that, she knows what she's talking about.
That's true. That's actually that's a really good compliment. Yeah. That's great.
That's right.
Awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
No, we appreciate that. Yeah, if we had to, if someone told us a year ago that we were going to be on a podcast interviewing people, I would have been like, no, I'm not going to do that. So it's just that getting outside of your comfort zone. We're both introverts, but we're like, hey, we want to meet people. We want to talk about, fun things. We like to joke around and talk about hobbies and stuff, but then we want to have the time to get to know people better and just to jump into real issues too. So we really appreciate that you said that about the fact that, we're the same in real life as we are in here. Cause that means a lot to me. I'm sure it means a lot to Miranda too. It's just that, and we talk about that a lot, just being real, being vulnerable, but then, not being afraid to talk about the important things too. So we definitely appreciate that. But thank you so much, Kevin and Melissa, for coming on our podcast. We definitely appreciate it. We had a great time chatting with you.
Likewise.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Yep.
That's awesome.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the end of this episode. Once again, special thanks to Kevin and Melissa Howard for spending their Friday afternoon talking with Miranda and I. We just thank them, and we thank you for listening. And if you really like this episode, make sure to go to my website, jmring.com/podcast, if you weren't already listening on there, and subscribe. You can subscribe either via iTunes or Google Play as well, or Google Music, actually. So thank you for listening again, and we hope you have a great weekend.